Cora!
My father warned me about people like you. He said, do not try to understand them. Do not try to make them understand you.
Thank you so much.
Part of the challenge was to attempt to tell a love story between Hawkeye and Cora and these two people who meet across cultural and class barriers.
You're not coming with us?
I got a reason to stay.
Miss Monroe?
That reason wear a striped skirt and work in the surgery.
It does. But done holding hands with Miss Monroe.
For Cora, it all opens up in her contact with Hawkeye.
Excuse her! As you were!
He is guilty of sedition. Must be tried and hanged like any other criminal.
He saved us. We're alive only because of him. Are those the actions of a criminal?
I read that script twice, and I didn't understand it because it read to me as an action picture. But then I didn't know Michael Mann. And then somebody said, this is very much a love story, and this is why. And then I had very positive feelings toward what I was reading. And I did sort of a test with Daniel.
Why didn't you leave when you had the chance?
Because what I'm interested in is right here.
And that's how he made his decision, because the chemistry was right. And Michael was very sensitive to how people looked together. He felt that we were the closest match.
Madeline was one of my favorite actresses, and the way Michael took to her, wow. And then, when we read with Daniel, you could just see it in the room. There was no question. She was strong and yet soft. She was tough, but yet romantic. Madeline had an intelligence that really worked for the role.
What I noticed when I cast her, this is a woman who inside just has this fire and can be completely uninhibited. I said something and she had this outrageous kind of laugh. Just like, whoa, you know, and it was, you know, this wild spirit, this exuberance. And I thought, that's it, you know, she's Cora.
Michael, during the rehearsal process, would find, for instance, fabric selections and have us hold bolts of fabric to our body. We'd come to rehearsal with our hair done, and he would walk around us, revolve around us to see where to shoot us from. And that was incredibly unusual for a director to do.
You know, where is Cora from? You know, that's one of the questions we faced. I mean, who is she really? If you are a young woman of that age, you know, where are you coming from? What's your background? What music were you listening to? What neighborhood were you living in London? What were her attitudes towards courtship, towards marriage, towards what do I do with my life?
What are you looking at, sir?
Well, I'm looking at you, miss.
Hawkeye says, I'm looking at you, miss. And her first reaction is one of unease because of being stared at that boldly and directly by someone who says, I like you, I want you, and everything in between. And then a kind of wildness, that fire rises within her. And in that kind of declaration of the independence of my own will and what I want to do, which is, you know, I'm liking what I'm looking at too. At that moment, character Cora, she arrives truly into the present.
It defined both the differences between those two people in their cultures, and yet somehow also it threw a bridge between them, because Cora is changing so much in that environment and discovering parts of herself that have been necessarily repressed.
You know, it's a very primal thing because he's sort of this epitome of a certain kind of man. He's an alpha male, you know, and women are naturally drawn and attracted to that, I think. But he has also a kind of containment that's very arresting.
Very dire circumstances befall Hawkeye and Cora and Hayward, who's a British officer who's also in love with Cora. They are about to be captured by Hurons, and there's no way out. There's no possible exit.
Yes! Go ahead!
There's one route out that only Hawkeye, Chingaskuk, and Uncas might survive, but it means abandoning Cora.
I want you to go! If we go, there's a chance there won't be a fight. There's no powder. If we don't go in that, there's no chance, none. Do you understand?
Cora has come to see the world the way Hawkeye sees the world. And she says, no, you must go, because if only one of us survives, the other does too.
You've done everything you can do. Save yourself! Stay alive. If they don't kill you, they'll take you north up to the Huron land. Submit, you're here. You're strong. You survive. You stay alive no matter what occurs. I will find you. No matter how long it takes, no matter how far. I will find you.
And he's basically saying to her, you may be brutalized, beaten, raped, tortured, whatever it is, submit within yourself, and I will find you. Stay alive, no matter what has to happen to you. Stay alive, because you're my heart, you're my soul, I will find you. That's that message. It's a very, very tough message.
In the poetry, that pragmatism about preserving life any way you can, there's a heroism.
We had a core group of Indian actors, Wes Studi, who's brilliant, and I was fortunate to have Russell Means and Dennis Banks. And I remember the first time I saw a picture of the two of them together at Wounded Knee when they had that standoff against the FBI. You know, and so this was a wild idea. Wow, what if I could get Russell Means and Dennis Banks to play Chingachgook and Ongeuscone?
Now, Les Français bring Huron, Ottawa, Abenaki onto Mohawk land.
Russell was, you know, he was a man who was comfortably enjoying being 55 years old and living life in a more sedentary way, and all of a sudden I'm asking him to start running up hills, and he put himself back in shape in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Background! And action!
Michael. He always had a socio-political context that he interwove with the emotions of the story.
Cut. Sit there.
He'd find the specific moments to lock into, and he would always talk about what her expectations were and how they've been dashed.
Action, Wes. Go, Garen.
The internal functioning of the character is something that Michael definitely pulls out, plays to, and manipulates, if you will.
I remember feeling as if Michael was a third entity in the scenes. And it's something that you pray for in a director, and he had a way of doing it that didn't feel intrusive, but it was sort of a funny union. And I knew that if we went again and again and again, it was because he was looking at some maybe minor detail. It might have to do with where my head might have been placed in an over-the-shoulder, or the way a lock of hair would affect him. He has emotional responses to things that the ordinary person isn't going to see, but that they get subliminally.
When the gray hair is dead, Magua will eat his heart. Before he dies, Magua will put his children under the knife so the gray hair will know his seed is wiped out forever.
Michael has an affinity for the bad guy, or the man who's considered the bad guy. Magua grew because Michael allowed him or encouraged him. I did not play Magua as the bad guy. I mean, he's doing all of the things that he's doing for the right reasons as far as he's concerned.
Magua's village and lodges were burnt. Magua's children were killed by the English.
It's turbulent times, and Magua was a result of those turbulent times.
Magua, most interestingly, the antagonist, the villain of the piece, probably has the most insightful political analysis of all, and he has the most proactive vision, which is a quite courageous vision.
Would Magua use the ways of Les Français and the Yengeese? Would you?
Yes.
Even though he's the villain, which is what makes him complex and kind of wonderful, which is that what we should do is make ourselves as the Europeans.
Prendre la terre des Abenaki. Et le pot des Osage, sac ou fox. La faire commerce, dans l'art, avec les autres nations indiennes.
We should engage in exploitation, we should become mercantile, we should engage in trade, because the historical reality has entered their lives, not entered our future.
L'homme blanc vient comme l'aube de jour. Et la nuit, tu amènes ça pour le futur. Notre conseil se pose la question depuis que je suis enfant. Kurtov les Hurons.
The lifestyle had changed drastically for the Indians when our brother came. He brought with him all of these things, and he also brought a lot of people. So it was not as if you had an option. You had to address the situation at all times, and they were coming by the hundreds of thousands.